we talk about upcoming and really ongoing Sunnyside updates because Tad Sky, our artist in residence, in charge of the Upper Steps, Detroit Upper Steps mural, which has been a phenomenal outpouring of volunteers and creativity. Will talk to us briefly about how long that project is going to go on. And then we got a raffle. We got two bubbles, non-alcoholic and alcoholic. They're real French champagne. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Captain Lubeck, Jerry, to welcome him to Ingleside and to his first meeting. Welcome.
Doing stream right now?
Yep.
Is that what's going on?
Yes.
So, good afternoon. My name is Jerry Newbeck. I've been in the police department for 26 years. I'm 51 years old. I recently got promoted 3 weeks ago out of Northern Station. So this is my first time actually commanding a station as a station captain. But I did do 9 years as a police officer. I did 9 years as a sergeant. And I did 8 years as a lieutenant. So I have a wide range of experience when it comes to law enforcement. I did patrol, I did investigations, I was on the SWAT team for 7 years, and I did administrative duties at Bayview with Captain Chignell at the time. If you guys remember Chignell, he was the captain at Ingleside a while back. I was also in the same academy class as Jack Hart, who was the previous captain of Ingleside. So I've been around a bit. I'm happy to be here at Ingleside. I live in Pacifica, so it's a quick commute, about 15 minutes just to get to work every day from Pacifica. And I'm happy to be here. Ingleside in general and the city in general is down on crime. Auto Boost down 50%. Just across the board, crime is down double-digit percentage. I did pull up some stats from Sunnyside. There was 2 burglaries of houses under construction. So if it's unattended, people are doing work there, sometimes that attracts people stealing your tools, stealing your new appliances, and things like that. Within the past 30 days, there was 2 houses under construction that got burglarized. So any questions you guys would like to ask me? Sir?
Do I need a mic for this?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to use the mic.
Okay.
Same mic?
Same mic? Okay.
Now we're kind of low time. We tried the wireless mic, but it didn't work.
I guess I'm speaking in front of everyone now. Okay. Last week, I want to know what I should do as a citizen about something that came up recently. Last week, someone pulled up on a motorcycle right in front of my house on Forester Street and dumped what appeared to be a bag full of stolen goods, probably junk that they didn't want, like just right in front of my house, and kind of drove off. I saw him kind of unloading it there. Couldn't really write. He was pretty well masked, wearing a motorcycle suit and a helmet. I couldn't really see him. But he did dump a lot of what appeared to be like tools and things like that in front of my house. And I don't really know what to make of it. I assume they're stolen. I don't actually know what they are. But I wasn't really sure what to do with this, right? So I kind of collected them. I picked them up. I put them on the side of my house. But is this something I should call the police about? Is there something I should file a report about? What should I do when this kind of thing happens?
Sure. So if you're suspicious of something like that, specifically if there's a vehicle involved, call the police. Let us look at the stuff. If it's somebody dumping some items that you think could be stolen, they probably stole it that day. So we can get on our radio and we can ask, hey, is somebody currently at the station taking a police report of a burglarized home? And maybe a sergeant would say, hey, I signed that report earlier. They're missing a Snap-on toolbox, and now they're dumped there. Now they see a Snap-on toolbox. Our department currently has a flock system. Have you heard of the flock system? So the flock system is there's 400 cameras distributed throughout the city. And what they do is that if we have a license plate, say the motorcycle license plate, if we put that plate into the flock database, it'll tell us wherever that license plate was hit throughout the city, right? So if that burglar with those tools and somebody's writing the report, we can try to identify that motorcycle, that license plate was near that location at that time. And then if we can positively identify that stuff was actually stolen, we can say, hey, this vehicle was used with stolen property, and we can put a flock alert out. So now they're driving on Van Ness, the flock is going to hit, and it'll come over our radio saying, active flock hit northbound Van Ness. And it actually takes a picture of these cars. So we'll see the description of the driver, what helmet he's wearing, what jacket he's wearing, but we have to have the plate first to put it into the system. And not only San Francisco, but other counties around the Bay Area also use this technology. So I would say call the police, see if we can verify if anything was actually stolen. And if there was, we'll try to ask houses in your neighborhood if they have a camera so we can get the plate information. And then we can upload it to Flock, and we'll get custody of that vehicle at least and get a description of the driver based on the photos that Flock took in the neighborhood.
Got it. I don't have a plate because I actually didn't know what he was doing when I saw him working out there and pulling stuff out of his bike.
Yeah.
Is it still worth me filing a report with the police, calling the police?
Yes, because
Okay.
somebody might want their stuff back.
Okay.
Specifically tools, and sometimes contractors, they'll engrave their initials or their business name on their tools, and at least we can get it back to them.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If you find what looks like stolen property or dumped property, you can also do a search for Andrea Michaels, whom I happen to know. She is a very smart woman whose goal now is to reunite people with their stolen property. She writes crossword puzzles for the for the New York Times, so she's no slouch. And I'm looking through this article that was published about her, and cannot seem to actually find a reference to a URL. But if you search for her, you will find this article, and is using the Office of Public Safety Advocate Mark Dietrich. So I'm sorry, I can't give you.
If you find it, we can put it on the chat
I
later.
know, it's really maddening that they would write this article and not put the URL in. But she's reunited thousands of people with lost belongings, from a little pink backpack that belonged to a child to camera equipment, tools, clothing, family snapshots. She really goes at it as a serious detective would.
Okay.
And that's Andrea Michaels.
Sir.
I have a question, thank you, that I posed to your predecessor, actually.
Okay.
One of my priorities is pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and neighborhood safety, and something that can imperil that are police chases through our rather residential area. And I asked this the day after the Super Bowl crash at an opportunity where police chase was initiated at Stonestown, led to 6 individuals at a parkway getting injured. And they were chasing people for retail theft-related reasons. My question for Amy Hurwitz, which was never quite answered, and I would love, and they're new on the job, is at some point, could you clarify the instruction that you give to the officers at your station regarding non-violent crime-related chases through our very residential neighborhood?
So if you could email me, I could send you our actual pursuit policy. It's not a secret, right? So our supervisors always tell our patrol officers risk versus reward is an ongoing measurement when chasing a suspect in a vehicle. Risk versus reward. Violent felonies, officers are going to be more likely to chase those people. Property crimes that are misdemeanors, if it's clear, streets are clear, there's no pedestrian traffic, it's a certain time a day or night where it's just the opportunity is available to chase. But once they see that it is no longer safe, they always have to continuously, with the partner and the officer and the supervisor, is required to monitor the pursuit. So whenever an officer gets into a pursuit with the vehicle, they have to say it over the radio. I'm in pursuit. What's the pursuit for? Location, direction of travel, speed, and street conditions. The sergeant, whoever supervisor there, or the lieutenant is required to monitor that that officer is putting out the correct information. And if the sergeant believes that it needs to be canceled, the sergeant can cancel it immediately. Any supervisor can cancel a pursuit based on the officer's radio transmissions. If they don't give us an update, a timely update as a pursuit continues, the supervisor is required to either cancel the pursuit or ask those officers to update continuously till the end of the pursuit. And I'll send you the full general order regarding pursuits. Some people, some supervisors might, depending on who the officer is, they might say, well, this is an experienced officer. You know what? He knows what he's talking about. He's giving me all the updates that are required. He might let him go. Maybe it's a new officer missing one of the updates. Might want to cancel that sooner than later, right? But it's always a continuous evaluation of risk versus reward. Always. Now,
I found the address, maybe you can just repeat it.
Sure.
It's lostandfoundsanfrancisco.com, and it's only for items that have already been found. So
is that one word, lost and found at sanfrancisco.com?
Yes.
All one word, lost and found at sanfrancisco.com.
Well, it's a website called Lost and Found.
It's a website
Yes.
called that, and so don't get in touch just because something's been stolen from your car. But if someone has found it, then it will appear there, and you can check, and you can perhaps talk to Andrea. I don't know. It's become her second.
Sergeant Hung, you want to come up and introduce yourself? I put him on the spot. Yes, ma'am.
At the last meeting, I can talk pretty loud enough without the signal.
Really loud.
I can repeat what you
Last
asked.
meeting, I believe that whoever was here, I don't know who that was. Anyway, we talked about the shortage in the police department
Yes.
for new officers. So could you give us some update on that? Is that improving, or what's the problem, or what can you tell us about that?
Well, it's still there. We're still short. I think 500 short officers. And what that resulted in is like certain shifts have been taken away. We used to have a 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. shift, so we no longer have that shift. There used to be plenty of foot beats in certain neighborhoods. A lot of the foot beats were pulled back because we need our response times to still maintain a reasonable level. So now everybody's in cars. There is some districts that still have foot beats, like Fisherman's Wharf, the Castro. Some districts still have foot beats, but most of them have been pulled away. Almost all of the 11 to 9 shift has either moved to a day shift or a night shift. We have a new mayor. We have several new board of supervisors, and they all have great ideas and we have a new POA president, and they all have great ideas to bump up these numbers and try to attract officers from other agencies as lateral officers with like signing bonuses, and we're trying to lessen the amount of time the academy takes to graduate. It used to take 9 months. We're trying to move it down to 7. So there's a lot of things going on with the new mayor and the new supervisors. Every district station has a new captain. All 10 stations on July 19th, a new captain took control. I took Ingleside, Amy took Southern, Central, Bayview, Park, Richmond, Terraville. All stations got a new captain. So we're really starting fresh. Our command staff, almost all of them are in new positions. So the opportunity to make positive change based on all the new people in new roles, it's gonna come to life. And I think we're very much on a positive note with the police department and with the collaboration with our district attorney. She's awesome. So it has been working in our benefit with additional the flock cameras and the real-time information center, which has our drone program. A lot of this technology that we're using is really helping us get the word out that if you come here, at least with the car, we're going to know your plate, we're going to know what it looks like, and we're going to find your car. Some of our drones followed some robbery suspects across the Bay Bridge, and we were able to get them, right? Because they parked at Treasure Island, they switched their cars, and we knew the car they parked, and we knew the car that they jumped in, and we were able to get them based on the technology that we're using now. So, our POA president is trying to see if we can get mutual funding for our salaries comparable to like Santa Clara, which they get paid more than us, just to try to attract new applicants to our police department. So we're doing it, and with this leadership, starting with the mayor, he's really, pro law enforcement, pro public safety. He's got his board of supervisors on board with him to just try to make the city safe again, to get the businesses back into our city so we can start growing the economy like it used to be. Yeah. Oh.
Just a quick update on construction or work.
You gotta speak loudly. You're on the air, you have to speak loudly.
I can repeat your question.
Update on the construction, the earthquake retrofitting for Ingleside Station and the new buildings.
All right, so he asked an update on the retrofit of the new building at Ingleside Station. It's been in the process for several years, probably more than 5 years. And I just got there and I read some formats, but just last Monday, the city came out and drilled down to get soil samples distributed throughout the whole area that they're going to start building. So they had to make sure that the ground was stable enough to build new buildings and do the retrofitting. So they did that last week. So they're still in the process of it. I don't know where it's going to go. We do have a temporary station already set aside, which is on Egbert. Supposedly we're going to Egbert to work out of that location until the new building is retrofit and built. But the timeline, I don't know the timeline. But they're continuously doing stuff. They came to the station now. They measured the windows because they want to keep the old look of the stable. They want to keep that look of that building. So they're doing windows and they're doing inspections. They're doing plumbing. They're doing a lot of stuff. I just don't know the timeline of it. But they're actively working on it. It's not on the wayside. I can ask. Sir?
Captain, can you share for the audience how they can subscribe to the Ingleside Station newsletter? Because I read it, there's so much information in there. The stats, the reports, the updates. If everyone knew how to get it, they'd have a lot of information. So if you share how one would sign up for that.
So you can call and just leave your email, and we'll add you to the newsletter email list. You can call Ingleside Station, or you can email Ingleside Station. What's the email? Is it SFPD Ingleside Station? Yeah. Or you can go to sfpd.org and click on District Stations, hit Ingleside, and email us, and just say you want to be added to the newsletter, and we'll add you to the newsletter.
Thank you.
Yep. Sir?
I wonder what the city does in concern to the fentanyl epidemic. Because I saw a guy and he was all cool, he was a polite guy, and you see that it was just heartbreaking. So
Yes, that, unfortunately, it is an epidemic for sure. Fentanyl is more addictive than crack, and it will ruin somebody's life. What the city's doing right now is they're concentrating on the parts of the city that have the most epidemic people who are addicted to fentanyl. Like I said, I came from Northern, and in the news several months back, we did a Jefferson Square Park arrest, and we had 82 arrests in one night. And those were people dealing drugs and using drugs. It was a combination. But 82 in one park at one night. And they moved from downtown, the Tenderloin and 6th Street, because they're doing so much proactive work in that area. Some of them are moving out of the district. They're either going to the Mission, going to the Northern, going to south of Market. So now every district surrounding those hot spots are getting a little bit more of that issue. But I wish there was an easy answer. Hopefully it gets a scheduled drug that is a felony for possession, but it's not.
Oh, it is not? I didn't really know that.
Yeah.
So,
For mere
but-
possession?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you know that actually arresting some addict is not really helpful. It's something more substantial need to be done, like to help those people.
Oh, it's happening.
And to catch the dealers, not the
Yeah.
people that are kind of like just miserable.
Yeah, and like I said, the mayor is really into public safety, right? He literally is hitting 6th and Market and the Tenderloin more than you can imagine. They have a drug market team. They have the Healthy Streets Operations Center. They've opened up new transitional locations where we can bring people to recover, to sober up. So they're really doing it. It's just they're doing it in the hot spots, which is downtown.
I'm sorry for asking another question, but you said fentanyl is actually not illegal. This is
No, it's illegal.
Oh, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
because then I didn't understand how you can arrest. But on that, so what did you say about it? That it needs to be done?
So it should so right now possession of cocaine is a misdemeanor. It used to be a felony.
Oh, I see what you're
Right.
saying.
So the law's changed. Yeah. Possession for sale is a felony. So we can get the sellers for felonies. But just mere possession is a misdemeanor.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Tree.
Sergeant Huang, I'm 18 years with SFPD. I'm at 9 years in Ingleside. I'm happy to be here. I've been walking around a lot. So you might see me down by Channel 9 walking around, or sometimes Portland, sometimes over the 6. All right?
Thanks, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Take care.
Any more questions? All right. Thank you.
Diane, did you want to talk about wildfire?
I'm going to head out. Thank you all. See you next time.
Welcome to the consent. All right. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, so I really wish the city would prioritize housing for our first responders. So my name is Denise Wood, I'm one of your neighbors, and for the past decade, I've been advocating for wildfire prevention, preparedness, and also for native biodiversity. So today I'd like to introduce you to my 2 petitions. One is for wildfire prevention and preparedness. The other one is for native biodiversity. And they're interrelated because what we have is 30 acres of unirrigated, dead, dying, dangerous eucalyptus atop our tallest hill, which is Mount Davidson, you got it. And last year, the National Weather Service issued unprecedented red flag wildfire warnings for the city of San Francisco. So the conditions for a wildfire actually exist here every fall. It's high temperatures, strong winds, and dry vegetation. Climate change has caught up with us. That's why we have had now red flag wildfire warnings. And the city officials are ignoring the facts. They intend to leave those eucalyptus standing. So if you want to prevent fire, this is a public safety issue. If you want the city to prevent wildfire, sign my petition, please. Go online or scan the QR code. And the other one is to replace the eucalyptus with native plants which support rapidly declining populations of native bees, butterflies, and birds. So California is a biodiversity hotspot. That means we are blessed with an abundance of diverse species, many of which we have brought to the brink of extinction. No other state has more biodiversity or more to lose than California. And San Francisco is a very important part of that biodiversity hotspot. So we have to sign the petition to get city officials to take their 2018 biodiversity resolution seriously. The resolution established native biodiversity as a citywide priority, but city officials are ignoring that. So we have to insist that they get on the ball with native biodiversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing the petition. We'll update you more on sunnysideassociation.org. Next, I'd like to introduce two people from San Francisco Planning, David and Garcia and Malena Ferreira. They're going to talk about the new zoning plan, and I'm sure it'll be of great interest. I can advance the slides.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you all for having us. We really appreciate it. Also, a quick shout out to Brian for very thoughtful kind of pre-coordination. He made sure that we knew kind of what you all wanted and what you all wanted to focus on. Basically, what is the family zoning plan, what's going to change, and what it means for Sunnyside. And then our next step. Okay? Great. So with that, we can go ahead and start going through our deck. My colleague Malena was in the back, is going to be taking notes. So as much as going to try to keep this brief and open up to your questions and comments for as much of the time as possible. So moving on, we want to really center this work in the families that we are creating housing for. I think at the end of the day, when we talk about housing units, and we're talking about thousands of units, it's easy to dehumanize that and to think that this is something that we are going to be changing our city, but it's really how we are welcoming people, creating space for people who are already here, creating different housing options. And that's the spirit that we want to center, and some of what the mayor said himself back in April. And it's going to be a part of something that I want us to keep at the forefront as we start talking about, units and arena allocations and all this technical jargon. That really we're looking to create more capacity for housing, for families, for people who are already here, and people who are struggling with housing. So this brief map shows a couple of different ways that we look at San Francisco. So the big headline here that we want to emphasize is that 90% of housing has been built on the east side of the city over the past 20 years or so. And we all know that because, well, a lot of these neighborhoods were built out. But at the end of the day, we've done a lot of planning work over these past few years to create more housing capacity on the east side. So what you see in the blue is the map of what's identified by the state as well-resourced neighborhoods or high and highest resource neighborhoods. And really what that all boils down to, for me, what really sticks, is that these are neighborhoods in San Francisco and throughout the state that have the best outcomes for children. So thinking about health and well-being, these are where children thrive the most. So the state is looking to create more housing in areas that are better for the well-being of our communities. And that's something that when we look at where we've actually planned housing in the middle map, those yellow areas are our area maps. So that's where we've focused on creating housing capacity. And over the past 20 plus years, we've really focused on the east side. And then when we look at the results on the far left, we see where housing development has been concentrated, and that's been on the east side. So we're really looking to continue to plan for more housing in ways that are thoughtful and creating more opportunities throughout the city in areas that can be beneficial for residents, for new residents, for our families, for your families, as we move forward. So thinking a little bit about what the requirements are, what we're being called to do by the state, we're being called to create capacity for housing, and we do that through zoning. So, big picture, we're looking to create kind of a gap that we'll get into a little bit more in the next slide, but it's about additional capacity for about 36,000 new homes in the city, in addition to what we've already have coming in the pipeline. And we're also looking to affirmatively further fair housing, so creating more housing in neighborhoods where, as I was saying before, we want to create more housing options and areas that have limited housing types, like apartments. We see some of those vestiges of older apartments in these neighborhoods, but it's been really hard to develop that type of housing over these past few years, since the downzoning, since changes in zoning laws made it harder to build multifamily and apartment buildings. So we're looking to really open these areas up and create those housing options, and also make sure that we're accounting for affordable housing. So how do we do that? By identifying sites that we want to, that we really want to prioritize for affordable housing. I also work on another facet of this work, which is called the Affordable Housing Sites Analysis and Strategies. And that's part of our continued research effort to really dig in and continue to build out affordable housing while we're looking to create housing in general for all income levels. So this is kind of just a bit of the numbers that we're working with from the state. So in the blue, we see what the state is calling us to do, which is make capacity for around 94,000 units. And it's divided into different income levels in the bottom. And we have some copies of this if you want to grab a copy before you go and really dig into it later. And then in the green is what we already have. In the darker green is what we have capacity credit, you could say, with the state, which is around 58,000. But there is a gap of around 36,000 that we're trying to fill by creating more housing capacity throughout the city. So that's really kind of the nuts and bolts around the numbers. And when we hear the regional housing needs allocation, or RENA, that's what we're talking about. This is kind of the state going to all municipalities and saying, this is what the amount of housing that you need to meet your community's housing needs. And especially in San Francisco, it's kind of a backlog because we haven't built that much housing over these past few years. So moving on, we've worked a lot on bringing people into this process. Some of you might have been a part of these other engagement opportunities that we've held since 2023. So everything from open houses to focus groups to meeting people where they are in meetings like this. And we really appreciate all that feedback. And same today, we really appreciate and advance your feedback and the questions and perspectives that you're going to give us. All of this continues to go through the churn and continues to shape the way that things have been shaping out. So moving on, this is kind of you can say, in some perspectives, a major milestone and deliverable that we've been working towards, which is a zoning map, or a revised zoning map. So here, it's very hard to read on this screen, but you can really dig in on our website. There's an interactive platform where you can go and zoom in specifically on a parcel, on a neighborhood, wherever you want to really go into it and get as much information as you would like. But what we see here is how we're trying to distribute this new housing across major corridors. So where there's transit, where there's already a lot of movement going on, and where there tends to be these empty lots or lots that are underutilized, so things like gas stations or things that maybe a vacant commercial property. That's really kind of like, for us, our sweet spot, or our soft sites that we use kind of more technical planning terms, where we want that housing to be and where we're trying to gear as much housing development to happen. And you can see different types of height in these neighborhoods that really harken back to a period before our change in zoning laws, where these types of buildings were allowed, but actually all these buildings would not be allowed under existing zoning. So this is what we're trying to get back to, a zoning code that allows this type of density at the neighborhood level. But we also have new development, and we see how that engages and integrates into communities in different ways. We all have different tastes, and I know I prefer a beautiful old apartment building compared to maybe some new ones, but really it's about creating different housing options. And people have different needs, different preferences, but it's creating those different opportunities for different folks. So kind of unfortunately there's a stick to this too. So the state is really pressuring cities all over California to meet these requirements. As you've all might have heard, the housing element, which is our plan, that this is one of the key implementing actions of. If we lose our certification, or if we don't comply with things that we've already committed to doing as part of that, we risk losing local control, we risk lawsuits from the state, we also risk losing funds for transportation, affordable housing, and other resources for our community. So thinking about what change will look like, this is different by community, and really kind of inviting us to continue to think about what this might look like in different ways. It might be look a little bit different than our existing neighborhoods, but that's not always a bad thing. So thinking about too how we the benefits of increased density, things like businesses, support for small businesses, populations for different housing types, at different income levels as well. And then all of the other benefits that housing has, from investment in local communities to infrastructure, and continuing to build on what we already have. So in thinking about Sunnyside, sorry that the border of the neighborhood isn't readily apparent in the graphic, but really what there's a couple of things to note here, but the key one is that what we call a local program is one of the routes to kind of, you could say, to facilitate housing that we want in our communities. So most of this is covered by the local program only. There's no height changes. So most of the area that in this map appears white or doesn't have any change, that means that there's no height changes. And really specifically in Sunnyside, the concentrations are along Monterey, between Bridgewood and Forester, the Safeway site, which would be up to 85 feet, so around 8 stories. And the area nearby on Monterey would be zoned to about 65 feet. So that's a change from 40 feet, which is existing, to 2 more stories or 4 more stories for that Safeway site. So big picture, this is all going on right now. So this is the time to continue to get involved. Your feedback here is greatly appreciated, but we have a couple of other milestones coming up. We start this adoption process with the Planning Commission on September 11th, and then we continue to work through with the board throughout October and November. So really we're continuing to receive feedback and input from communities across the city. And these are some renders that we have, and again, this might be different perspectives on what this looks like. Some people see this and they're like, great, wonderful, when? And other people are like, actually, absolutely not. So we have, we acknowledge that there's different visions, but we really want to, again, really focus on housing choice and the different housing options that we facilitate and allow in our city. So with that, thank you so much. Really appreciate your attention, and with that, I'll open up to questions.
Just to be clear, when you talk about the Safeway site, you're talking about changing the zoning for that site, that nothing is actually planned to be built 80 stories. Eight stories, I mean,
Yeah, as a
80 feet.
clarification, he was asking if the Safeway site, if we're proposing a change ourselves on that site. And we are not. We, as a city, are really only focused on the zoning laws. We're not presenting or telling Safeway, you should, build this here. No, it's simply, at the end of the day, these zoning changes are thought of in a very long range perspective. So we're considering the rezoning to really affect the city in a timeline of around like 15, 20 years and longer.
So at some point, if Safeway were to sell that land, somebody else could buy and build 80 feet tall if they wanted to.
Exactly, yes.
No plans at this point
yeah,
in time.
that could happen. Yes.
Is there any way that housing can be prioritized for first responders? And I have a second question.
That's a great question. She just asked if there's a way for housing to be prioritized for first responders. And that's actually something that we're really looking to change as a city. We're already, I don't know if you all heard of, some efforts taken on by SFUSD, for example, to create educator housing in the Sunset and Shirley Chisholm Village. So that was an initiative taken on by SFUSD. They know that many teachers are struggling to keep their place in San Francisco. So that was a concerted effort to create specific workforce housing for a specific population. So that's something that as we continue to think of the populations that need housing and who we want, as the captain was speaking about before, making it a viable option for families, for police officers or someone who's earning maybe that first year salary as a cadet or recruit to be able to actually afford something for them and their families.
Yeah, well, only 1/3 of our firefighters live in the city.
Yeah, and that's a big point, especially for disasters. And if something does happen, what's going to happen if people living in the East Bay might not have the easiest time to get here, especially in times of emergency.
Okay, my second question has to do with people who are aging. I'm a senior already. Okay, and a lot of the families on my block are actually empty nesters. They raise their kids, and the kids have flown the coop. And I just think that if we could free up those spaces for new families with young children, that would ease the housing. And also, I wouldn't have to maintain such a big house. But anyways, I don't see any place to. And what about Laguna Honda Hospital? Huh? Why is the old hospital still standing? And couldn't we build, it doesn't have to be stuck with 8 stories. Look at all the other big cities that have, towers of residences. 80 feet is nothing, right? So why can't we build taller, and why can't we build on Laguna Honda Hospital land, or if that hospital is going out of business, maybe seniors who need help can. What's very helpful about that hospital?
Let me answer your question, and then we'll give folks some other opportunities to ask more questions. But on the point of seniors and creating different housing options, that's actually one of the things that, as I was saying on the map, where we're not changing in the neighborhoods, and getting to a question that Brian asked, like what are the impacts going to be in the neighborhoods where we're not changing heights? And that's actually one of the things that we're going to facilitate in this plan, is to allow more densities so that a house can be divided under the same envelope, you could say, or with the same limitations, not adding more height, but how they can add more units, add more family-sized units, and maybe giving seniors who are owners of a house different options to add more housing in that same built structure or adding to that structure in ways that are a lot easier than is now. There's a lot less requirements. And then specific sites like Laguna Honda and Edgewood site, for example, like these are all really key sites that we're looking at in our inventory of large sites and how we meet our kind of bigger requirements. Stonestown is an example of these like very large sites that end up being a lot of units, and those each take on their own processes. I can definitely follow up with you with if you have more questions on Laguna Honda. But it is one of those things that we're considering of, okay, how can we really make the most of this site to get as much housing and really, whether it's serving senior population or other specific groups. Malena?
My name is Malena Alon. I also work in the planning department, but I just wanted to add on the Laguna Honda site. That's already under discussion with the city, and we've been looking at the site and what can happen there.
You have to talk into the microphone or else really loud. We have
Sorry,
12 people at home watching it
Yeah,
in there.
I forgot about the microphone. On the Laguna Honda site, that's like been long in discussion about what we can do there, and most of the ideas there are building housing for seniors and people with disabilities. So one of the main projects there is building something that doesn't exist currently, which is affordable residential care, like a place where you can live, but that it's affordable for you to get care during the day and that kind of stuff. Like, you have some free, like, you don't depend on a full-time nurse. And that has required a lot of coordination between, like, the State Department of Public Health, because that program doesn't currently exist, right? Like, those programs are targeted to people, not locations. So it's just a lot of the ideas that are happening there require a lot of coordination, and I feel like I worked on that on the Aging and Disability Affordable Housing Plan, and that's one of those challenges that the COVID pandemic kind of slowed down. But it's on our side, and we're currently discussing. It showed up in his analysis for affordable housing sites as well. So we're definitely working on that.
Okay, you in the scarf? Yes.
Yeah. So, what's happening with Candlestick?
What's happening with Candlestick? So these large projects, each of them has their challenges. I'm not going to go too into it because I don't work on this project, but it's really, I think right now, all the parties involved are trying to figure out okay, how can we do this? What are the feasibility challenges? How can we make this feasible? And but those are considered in this long-range perspective, and we are taking, counting as much as we can from what's coming in those very large development agreements, but we still need to do more. So, yeah, great point. Yes?
Great. So for our housing element, our 2022, we already got credit for, I don't know who asked that question, but we already got credit for the phase of Candlestick that was maybe planned during this eight-year period. So anything that's not on the rezoning side, if it's like a large development agreement, and we thought, in this phase, in these 8 years of that planning process, housing was going to happen, that's already counted in our pipeline.
Hi, I want to know what factors went into deciding which portions of Monterey Boulevard were chosen for higher heights, and how you're going to handle the polluting impacts of new construction. What are we going to do to minimize that when we can?
Thank you so much. So in this analysis, and really it's been a painstaking process and very meticulous of going corridor by corridor, street by street, and finding kind of what these potential anchor sites in this particular part of the city. It was thinking about what are some of these larger sites that could anchor or be an opportunity for more housing and be the sufficient size to deal with that amount of height added. And then also thinking about commercial properties nearby. because Marlena also works, for example, on the tenant protection ordinance, and this is something that we haven't mentioned a lot in this conversation, but it's something that we really want to honor and respect. That this is a plan that is doing everything that it can to respect existing tenants and respect people who live, especially renters who might not be, who aren't owning their homes. So thinking about where those opportunities are is kind of one of those key factors, not only on Monterey Boulevard, but kind of citywide, or especially in the rezone area. Go with you, sir.
And it was construction pollution.
And then, and then construction and pollution. So we actually, the Board of Supervisors legislative research team did a specific study on construction and the impacts of construction throughout the city. If this rezoning was passed and if it progressed in a kind of, you could say, a pretty regular pattern, and the types of impacts of redevelopment of, whether it's construction, building a new building, and they identified some of those potential impacts and then some of the mitigation measures. And I can share that whole report with Brian, and he can get that to you if that's a way to do it. But it is thinking about, okay, how can we, especially for small businesses and the potential impacts on, I don't know about you all, but when I think about, okay, I'm going to go to this business and I know that there's a construction site and I'm not going to be able to walk on the streets to get there, I'm going to think twice about going, and those types of impacts are always associated with construction. So we want to think as a city, how do we minimize that and make that a little bit not so burdensome for small businesses who have no fault other than being next to that construction site.
I've been in the neighborhood since 1970 now, and there's been a lot of gentrification, which I think is fantastic. The place is much nicer. My concern is actually Monterey Boulevard, because some of the apartment buildings there have garages in the back, and so they have landscaping and trees in the front. But I'm currently working on a mural at 400 Monterey, and there are 7 garages in the front, so there are no trees or landscaping. And next to that are three more buildings, square, ugly boxes, with another 7 garages. So there you have 14 garages in a row, no landscaping, and they're ugly. And I'm sure they're affordable, or maybe they're not. But my concern is the aesthetics of what Monterey Boulevard is going to look like in the future. Are they just going to be large, ugly buildings made cheaply? Or is it going to be nice looking architecture with landscaping and trees? And just recently we had a tree planting because apparently Sunnyside doesn't have enough trees. So my concern is, are we just going to be making larger, ugly, rectangular boxes with more garages? And as everyone knows, now I've been working on a mural there, the closer you are to transit, less people will have less cars. But actually that's not true. I see people driving in and out of those garages all day long. So the concept that, you live near, the bar or the bus or the J church line, doesn't necessarily mean to be less cars. But my real concern is the aesthetics, the architecture. Are they going to be ugly, cheaply made boxes, or are they going to be beautiful? I hope they're going to be beautiful. Otherwise, the neighborhood really is going to look ugly. So,
Do something.
Well, thank you for that. And actually, we do have, we as you all might know, city planners, nerds, aesthetics. We care about those things too, and we really care about how we support communities that people want to be in, that people want to walk down, streets that people want to walk down. And that's one of the key things that we did over this past year was we passed objective design standards, so that we as a city, instead of being so subjective about what looks good and what looks bad, is thinking about what's objective and good for people. Like what's what is going to help people, not only who are going to live in that housing, but who are going to walk by. How do we plant around these new developments and support the streetscape and urban design of that, and make that into an objective process, so that developers and people who are looking to build new housing know this is what I need to do to make a great street when I build, maybe change this, and it's not going to be a wall of garages, but how do I, space things out appropriately, incorporate street trees, etc. And we're going to go with the lady in the purple shirt.
What kind of state backing do you have to prevent culture capital from coming in and swooping up all the open property? So the increasing problem in San Francisco, actually it turns out the majority of units are now owned by private equity firms who will, of course, push people out because the new model of capitalism is not to make a profit, it's to have an increasing profit every year, which means they will try and jack the rents up and up.
Yeah, that's a great point and something that we've been grappling with as a city. So she asked about, what is the backing that we have or support to make sure that people who we've been talking about or that we've been trying to center in this conversation are actually the ones who are going to have access to that housing, as opposed to corporate landlords or private equity funds. And that's something that I know Malena herself has engaged with our city attorneys a lot, but just thinking what are our limitations as a city? How can we, who can we limit, the opportunity to purchase? And that's something that, us as planners are still grappling with, but I can definitely, find a little bit more update for some specifics on that. But there's nothing very specific on my end that I know off the top of my head.
One final question, and we'll have to stop there.
Woman in the jean jacket.
Yes, please do.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. Ooh, right. Lovely. Hello, everyone. So I am here because my Democratic Club, the Westside Family Democratic Club, was actually going to have somebody come and speak very briefly after the city planning, but the Westside Family Democratic Club organizes to influence Democrats in San Francisco, and our club in particular is interested in the needs of families in San Francisco, and we have taken a position very much in support of the family zoning plan, and think that this is very much in the interest of families, especially to increase future homes along transit corridors and to make our walkable neighborhoods even more walkable, and to help small businesses in San Francisco. So we're very much in support of it, and we'd be happy to talk about the positions that the other Democratic clubs are taking in the city on the topic if you're interested. But I wanted to say that. And the second thing is that I was just looking at your very nifty interactive zoning map. This is very cool. You should look at it, everybody. It's pretty sweet. But I was zooming in on the proposed changes on Monterey Boulevard in our neighborhood, and it's frankly a lot of parcels that don't look like they're about to change hands anytime soon. So I'm actually curious, why not do more in Sunnyside?
Thank you. This is not planned at all. I think one of the things that we've been kind of looking at throughout the corridors is that, on each of these corridors, we could always go with more or think of like, well, let's just, maximize any opportunities. And, but really it's, as much as we are in a housing crisis now, we're going to continue to be in, facing the need for housing in the future. So continuing to think of a staggered approach throughout the city and thinking, well, what's this neighborhood like now? How can it change in a gradual way that we're kind of supporting and ushering, as opposed to something that we lose control of. But yeah, that's one of the bigger picture perspectives that we took throughout these corridors.
Well, thank you. I know we could go on for a lot longer. Thank you, David. Excellent.
I appreciate that. We have one more here from Supervisor Malgar's office to, I don't know if you really have prepared remarks, or Emma, if you'd rather make it focus primarily on questions, just to make things go along. We could always have you repeat the questions, but if you have other things you'd like to talk about as well, you're welcome.
I have a couple of updates. My first update is if we can get the agenda on the screen.
Stand a little closer to the screen.
Oh, look, there's picture from my Instagram. That's the
I
problem.
did. There were a lot of nice ones. I had to choose very carefully.
I thought the lighting was good that day. Hi, everybody. My name is Emma Hare. I am, see, I was going to say, you spelled my name Emma Hater.
Yeah, right. I apologize for that
But
before.
I'm a lover, not a hater. So, yes, my name is Emma Hare. I'm a legislative aide for Supervisor Mirna Melgar, who represents Sunnyside on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. In August, we're in legislative recess, so we don't have opportunities to legislate and vote at this time. But we, at the last meeting of session on July 30th, Supervisor Melgar introduced a lot of things that I wanted to give everyone some updates on. The first was a package of legislation as it relates to the family zoning plan. So the family zoning plan is with the planning department, and the mayor's office has proposed that. Supervisor Melgar likes the idea, but thinks it could use a little bit of extra zhuzhing up. And so she introduced legislation around three main things. One is tenant protections. What are we going to do to make sure if someone chooses to sell their property or demolish a rental unit, how do we ensure that the folks who are living there are not displaced? And they can come back, and they can come back whole. Another one is something that was mentioned is small business protections. So small businesses that maybe are getting evicted, their building is being demolished to build something new. How can we make sure that that business either gets into that new building in a commercial space or gets to stay in the neighborhood in a new commercial space? That's the second one. And then the third one is financing of affordable housing. So as was mentioned, the family zoning plan calls for 82,000 units, about half of which should be subsidized for low-income communities. But who's going to pay for that, right? Things don't happen for free. And so Supervisor Melgar has introduced legislation to try to unlock some new sources of funds specifically around affordable housing. That's the package that she introduced. These will also be heard in September and October by our fellow supervisors, and we hope that to earn the support of our colleagues. Another piece of legislation that she introduced on July 30th was the Street Safety Act, which is legislation that aims to reduce the pedestrian fatalities in our streets. I know that was mentioned previously, but there are things we can do. All of us can drive and walk and bicycle safer and safely, but we can also design our streets so that it's easy to do so, and that it is the natural thing to go slowly and to look before we enter the crosswalk and to look whether we're walking or in a vehicle. So that legislation calls on more enforcement from SFPD, and it calls for if Public Works is going to repave a road, then you have to put back the crosswalk that you just tore up, right, and stuff like that, to make sure that our streets are easy and clear and safe to get around. And the last thing I want to mention is I see a couple of folks in the audience here who I've been working with on participatory budgeting. You could maybe raise your hand if you've applied for and won participatory budgeting lately. So participatory budgeting is a program that Supervisor Melgar runs. She's the only one in town who does it, in which we have a pot of $400,000 of your money, public taxpayer dollars, that we, instead of saying, here's how I want to spend it, we ask you, how do you want to spend it? And so some folks in the room have applied, and they've answered the call and said, this is how I want to spend it. And those projects were voted on by the people of District 7 and 1. So some examples are, we've funded a mural on Monterey. We're scoping out locations, but a new mural on Monterey. Thank you for your application. Another one was, I know we have seen more daylit spots on our streets with the red no parking near intersections. We want to make those prettier. Instead of just a red curb, we want to add maybe planters, maybe a bench, maybe a little library, but making those a space for community to gather instead of just empty space. Instead, we can make it full space. So that is some of what we're working on at City Hall. And I'm happy to take questions about that or anything else.
I'll speak into the mic.
Okay. At least it's a little short.
I know.
First of all, thank you and thank you to Myrna and Melgar also for thinking about enforcement of crosswalks and pedestrian safety. Honestly, if I could have chosen between say, a speed camera on Monterey and say like a stop sign camera at Edna Monterey. I probably would have chosen a stop sign camera, but I don't know if that exists. Actually, I had a question about tenant protections. I'm completely unfamiliar with the subject. I'd love some clarification on it. As someone who doesn't know anything about it, when I hear tenant protections, I hear that if a parcel changes hands and there are tenants there, it will not get redeveloped because the tenants must be protected. I assume that's not exactly what it means. I would love some clarification of that, just for my own edification about that.
Right. So there, San Francisco, we do have really strong tenant laws and tenant protections for the most part. There's some gaps in the system though. So so you're not allowed to evict your tenants in that situation, but you are allowed to develop your property. But you would need to provide to the tenants relocation services. And then for a right of return. So if the 2-unit building, you're going to a 20-unit building, they get dibs on one of those units. Another loophole.
At the same rent that they were
and the
paying
same rent,
for.
correct. Another loophole that we have is, so you're not allowed to evict your tenant without cause, but there's nothing stopping you from saying, oh, we're just renovating, and then renovate, and then renovate, and then renovate, and then renovate, and make the apartment unlivable, and then in that case, you don't have to provide the relocation services or the right of return. Now you do, or we've introduced legislation that would say you do. We call those renovictions, and they're just a fraudulent way to get around
Constructive
the law.
evictions when the landlord does that.
Right. So those are some examples
And so there has
of.
to be a settlement with the tenant. There's usually a lawsuit.
Right. So
And
those are some examples of the tenant protections that we are trying to close some loopholes.
Can I add?
We're actually coordinating with the supervisor because in line with the rezoning, there's another tenant protections ordinance also going in, getting introduced on September 9th, and that's related to demolitions, right? And her ordinance supplements this ordinance about what happens, but basically what we're trying to do is that if they want to demolish a building, that we have enough controls there, that we retain certain discretion of what can get demolished or not. There was a law that was passed by the state that sort of, we usually don't demolish that much in the city. In the past, like from 2012 to 2024, I believe only like 234 units were demolished, which is, it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't that much for a city our size. We really do control a lot of the demolitions here in the city, and we have continued to do so after 2019 when this was introduced. But we want to have better controls about, if a building does get a demolition permit, that tenants are protected. And so we're expanding some of the protections that the state afforded with that law, and we're also making sure that we fill some of that loophole. So for example, a big loophole was the definition of demolition. A demolition was only considered if the whole building came down to the ground. If you kept like a basement, it could potentially not be considered demolition, and then people wouldn't get their rights. So we're changing that description to be a little bit more, also to prevent renovations from happening. And we're also tying a lot of the tenant protections to the planning process. So we won't give you your demolition permit if you don't submit a relocation plan, for example, and that we know that tenants are taken care of. Developers will have to hire like relocation specialists who track tenants and make sure tenants come back into their unit, because that's usually what ends up happening. We lose tenants in the process. We can't find them. And then we won't give certificates of occupancy unless we have proof that tenants have denied the right of first refusal, or like substantial efforts were made to contact the tenants. That's some of the examples that we're putting there. But it's a lot more than that, and if you're interested in that part of the protections, it'll get introduced at the Board of Supervisors on September 9th, and then I think it'll be presented at the Planning Commission on October 9th, I believe, but I can send an email to confirm the dates. And I can send more information about it to you guys as well. And like I said, we're coordinating with the supervisor, because some things we couldn't do, like we couldn't go as far as we wanted, so we're making sure that they are both kind of working together.
I think we can take a couple more questions. Anyone have any?
This question
Ken Martin about the zoning business, but I think you're involved in this too. I see there's not that much zoning changes along Monterey, but he says it's staggered, so there's probably going to be more and more and more over the years, is that right?
Not, the housing element process doesn't happen frequently. I mean, you can spot zone things, but this like citywide or west side wide rezoning happens every 10 years, 8 years.
Well, not necessarily a rezoning. Only when we submit our site, they say that we don't have sufficient size.
Right. Well, this process that we're going through is a once every 8 years process.
Okay.
Yeah.
More questions. Zoning something for larger buildings doesn't mean they will be built. Will that satisfy the state that you merely zone them for larger buildings without actually building more buildings?
Yes. So yes, the state just wants to see that we have what's called build capacity, or at least we're not blocking the potential for a development at this, that, or the other site. But the state is aware, as are many of us, that interest rates are where they are, and investments are where they are, and so there's not a lot of appetite for new development amongst that class of people who do that.
And one last question. When it is rezoned to a larger building, it sounds like you're making modest changes, incremental changes, not huge changes, but still properties can be more valuable if they're torn down and rebuilt as large apartment buildings. Are you going to prevent developers from swooping in and pressuring, demanding, and tricking homeowners who are living in their own homes from being basically forced to sell?
Well, no one will be forced to sell. But people are welcome to engage in financial decisions about their own properties. But no one will be eminent domained. No one will be forced to sell. Everybody will have the right to do with their own property what they choose to, with certain safeguards like tenant protections and others.
Yeah, but what about blockbusting things, church developers do sometimes, say, your neighbor's going to sell, you should sell too.
I am not familiar with explicit plans on that right now, but we know that no one is being forced to sell anything.
Can I ask?
Of course.
So as part of the tenant protection ordinance, there are, and this is from state law, there are requirements on replacement of units. And so we're making it in a way that certain buildings, it just won't be financially feasible to tear them down, right? Because you would have to cover all of these tenant protections, you would have to do all these replacement requirements that we're doing for affordable housing. And so we're hoping that those controls also limit that pressure. But that's a very real concern, and that part of the, like coming up with policies about how we can control that, that's not within the scope of this, but that's a great question. And at least we're hoping that with the tenant protection ordinance, we're discouraging the redevelopment of certain types of buildings and sites.
It's more of an owner-occupied house.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you, Emma. I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I'm sure you don't have any.
I tried to ask twice.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Sorry, actually it's come from the zoning, but it's still, maybe my knowledge is not updated, but I understood that there's about 19,000 illegal units in San Francisco, and one point I understood they tried to legalize them, and I know that many of our houses here actually, the basement is not the basement, it's above ground, and it's redeveloped to another unit. And I wonder if those illegal units are still illegal, or if it's legal already to build, because I understood that if it's H1 zoning, you cannot have more than one family, although that many people have it. So I wonder.
That's a good question. David and Elena, do you want to take that?
Are the illegal units, are illegal ADUs going to be grandfathered in?
Not necessarily, and if it's will be illegal to build in the empty space under the house in other units?
If there was, so actually Supervisor Malga passed legislation on UDUs, which is what you're describing, to make sure that we're like controlling that aspect of UDUs happening and all of that stuff. But for example, if a demolition is going to happen and we detect that you have a UDU, it's considered a protected unit and you have to replace it. So we wouldn't lose the units, right? We would make sure that those units get replaced, and if there are tenants, they get rights.
Even if they're illegal?
Even if the units are illegal, because that's someone's house, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that because a lot of people don't know that they're in an illegal unit.
But why not to make it actually legal that people can?
We have a process. You can legalize your unit if we know that you have an illegal unit.
No, I don't have illegal.
No, I don't mean you, like people.
But I say, but if someone wants to build a unit, not to have illegal and then to make it, just to do it in the right way, to build a unit that's planned to be for rental. Why to do it kind of like this? To make it kind of like, if I want to build it in my basement, which is not the basement, it's above the ground, a unit, why not to build it legally that this would be a rental unit? Maybe I'll downsize and I'll live there and rent the house.
Yeah,
whatever.
so we actually, so there are a lot of, I'm not sure I'm 100% understanding the question, but we have a lot of processes about those units, right? On the one hand, we have all these processes for ADUs, additional dwelling units, and we have streamlined those processes. We have a table where like different agencies get together and process those permits fast, and that we can support that. We've also been trying to look into financing for that type of unit. So, for example, if you want to move into a smaller unit and you can rent the top of your house, that can happen. So that's one side of this equation, right? Then there's people who have built an illegal unit, and we don't want those. If that unit can be brought up to code, we don't want to lose those units. It's someone's house, right? So we have a process for legalizing units, unless they're deemed not safe and all of that stuff. And then on the other side, if somebody wants to redevelop the lot, and we find out there's a UDU, we ask that they replace that unit and that the tenant in the unit gets rights, basically. So, I don't know, does that answer the question?
Yeah, answer some.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that. There's a lot going on. I know we're running a little behind, but thanks to all the speakers, great questions from the audience and great information. We'll be posting some of the stuff that we get from them if you can't find them on the planning site or on District 7 site. Instagram, yeah, she's got some great pictures if you want to see a few more.
Also, the whole presentation that we gave you guys, there's copies of the whole presentation.
Oh, great. Well, thank you all. I'm going to pass it over to Mike really quick to give us an update on what we've been up to.
This is really quick. Hello, everybody. Michael Kelly, member at large. I'm on the board here with the Neighborhood Association. I'm also the Sunnyside Neighborhood Coordinator for NERT, the Emergency Response Team. And a couple of the quick wins we've had since we all met last time. You heard Emma make reference to the participatory budget. I was the one that organized FOAMS, Friends of Art, Monterey Safeway. So we got it voted in, $50,000 to make art at the Safeway concrete wall. Everything's great until it's not. Safeway then, corporate got involved, Albertson's their owner, said, hey, we might have to unload this property one time, the trustee, we can't accept your $50,000 for art. Then, one of our other board members came up with a solve, Cecilia Zhao, and she pointed out that, hey, maybe we could get the Arts Commission and everyone else to mount a bracketing system on top of the concrete so they don't have to sign up under trustee. And now Safeway is saying yes to that. So it's a win, it's a loss, it's a win again, but this is progress our community is making. The association organized how to participate in this participatory budget. So that's a really good update. I got to say, Safeway corporate wants to do the right thing. They want art on Monterey. It's a merchant corridor. It's what we're trying to do. Another piece of good news, some years ago, 7 years ago, I think, Stephen Pinto Martin is in the House. He petitioned, he submitted a participatory budget. 7 years later, we finally, with Emma's help, got the $25,000 just about shaken loose to buy emergency and disaster response equipment, generators, a container to store them in. So this has been sitting idle. Everyone, the cities clawed the money back. No, actually we did deep research, found out they hadn't. we're about to get the 25 grand that was promised 7 years ago. So things like that are happening. It's the perseverance, it's the volunteers in the community. I don't have the big ideas. I'm just really good at running things to ground. They'll point me at it, I just go. But some of the other wins, we've recently had 3 Sunnyside businesses sign up to become business members at $100 a year to replenish our coffers. And 3 businesses in Ingleside have now pledged to do the same thing. So I would implore all of you here, there's the camera, all of you listening, the membership in Sunnyside is so valuable. This weekend there's a concert at the conservatory. We have picnics in the park, egg hunts for the spring. There's the holiday party. And then there's this other really good work we're doing. I spoke, Emma invited me to City Hall last week. There was a party to end the session. Met with Mayor Lurie. He's going to come to our November, probably, I'm working with their schedules, probably will be here November 10th. So access to city government, fire captains, police captains, city officials that can get things done. The last comment I'll make on some of the wins, we had a successful event at my home. Part of NERT has this program called Map Your Neighborhood. All the neighbors, in fact, Jennifer and Ray, and we had our neighbors come over. We all understood who's in the neighborhood, who might need help in an emergency, who's got skills and talents and supplies. There are some sheets back on the page there of the upcoming events. There is a virtual Map Your Neighborhood being done on Zoom, and NERT, full training. The city pays for it all. It starts September, it's next month, September 23rd. It's a 6-week program. The city will pay to train you. They'll outfit you with a backpack of supplies, your helmet, your goggles, all the things you need to keep your community safe, your family safe, yourself safe. You get invited in to get ham radio certified. It's an amazing program. 40,000 people in San Francisco have gone through NERT training. Most of them have aged out or didn't stay current. We need a lot more. The city picks this up. I'm the coordinator. There's flyers over there. We got fridge magnets. We've got all kinds of, disaster checklists. They're on the tables there. Please help yourselves. Please contact me if you're interested. That's my job, when I'm not at my job, is making sure that our community is prepared. Thank you so very much.
Well, it was a great donation of a list of all the things you're working on for all of us. I want to turn it over to Tad Sky, our artist in residence, for the Upper Detroit Steps mural, just because it's a really special project and we've got more to do.
Can I, for the plan, there was a hearing September 11th. I don't know if it was mentioned by David or Milena, but September 11th, hearing at City Hall about everything we just heard here. If you want your voice heard, show up to the hearing.
Ted, do you want to give us a progress report?
I think you have some slides.
Yes.
Just one.
So, how many of you been up to the Upper Detroit Steps in the last couple of weeks and see what's going on? Oh, a lot of you. Great. And how many of you volunteered to help us? I know I see some. All right, very good. That's what we need. Okay, so I think there's a picture up there of what it looked like before, just some ugly concrete, and now you see what we've done over on the right-hand side. So,
you got to see it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't do justice.
July was the wettest, like 30 years or something like that. So in spite of that, and we've just finished our 5th weekend up there, we have a lot of volunteers, I think almost 100, that Pam and Rosar have been recruiting. Bart's been there helping bring all the supplies up and stuff. We still have a long way to go. We're mostly the bottom part from Monterey up to the doorway at 400 Monterey. That's pretty much what we're concentrating on. But we have things all the way up to Juice. So we still have a lot of volunteer opportunities. It's just like a 2-hour thing. I give you a little art supply kit and you paint and it's fun. This weekend we even had someone who was on a fellowship from Africa who helped us. Great painter. And we've had just a few anecdotes here. There was a woman who lived right next door. Rizar recruited her. I saw her work and I went, are you did you learn this on your own? She goes, oh no, I went to the College of Arts and Crafts. This woman was fantastic. She's now doing one of our big paintings in front. There's about a 7-foot little space to do that. So we have some great people painting. We have some amateurs. We have Ken's daughter, Wilhelmina, was there. And, it's fun. It's fun. In fact, on Sunday, 3 people were painting next to each other, and they were laughing and carrying on. I thought, are they doing anything over there? I went over. A lot of great work. So it's a fun thing. I've met so many of my wonderful neighbors, and we're going to get this thing done. So, and I know we've heard a lot of abstract stuff tonight about this zoning and that. This is a concrete thing you can help do. Now, most of the stairs in San Francisco have been tiled, and they're beautiful. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that. And the reason we didn't do that is because we didn't have the money. So we said, let's do it ourselves. Thanks to all the volunteers, we're getting this done. It's actually going to be the longest painted stairway in this city, by far. Nobody else is crazy enough to do it. Exactly. So look, this is your opportunity. You come there, and the theme is the stream coming down with flowers and stuff. Basically, do what you like. You can do a butterfly, a bird, a snake, or whatever. You get a little area. It's very easy now. We've done all the hard work. So you just get to sit down on a little cushion, and you paint. And one of our most ardent volunteers is right here, Brian. Brian's helping all the time. Exactly. So please come and help us. And speaking of volunteers, this guy, John and Brian, look at all the good things they do to put this meeting together. I think they need a little bit of love. Right? To put it all together. So that's it for me. Please come to the steps, join us. There's a 2-hour, thing you can sign up for, or just come and paint. All right? Thank you.
If you
Brian.
do 2 sessions, you get your choice of wonderful T-shirt or a hat or whatever.
I just wanted to say that I came down here tonight on the Detroit Street steps to the Live on Mango, and it's beautiful.
Right.
If you haven't been there, then it's really an amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for all the volunteers. Did I promise somebody else on speaking time? I can't remember. I probably did. We have a raffle. We've got two kinds of bubbles. Alcoholic, actually, French. Sarah? Yes, we got a whole bunch of upcoming events. The 5th annual Clovehurst Block Party, which is happening Saturday, August 23rd, from 11 to 3. And it's a lot of fun. We'll have food and live music. So we'll put all of these events in our updates on sunnysideassociation.org. But now I'd like to introduce our secretary, Margaret Hodel, to the raffle.
Right. Everybody likes to see me because it's over. Okay. So 289581. You can choose alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Winner! That was fast.
Okay, non-alcoholic. So there's still the alcohol. And the second winner is 289578. 578.
We'll see.
This is steps.
Yes.
578. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Ryder. And we've got a whole bunch of events. Do we have the concert? I didn't want to keep anybody from the rest of their evening, since I know the parties are just beginning. So we've got the painting that we heard about from Tad. We've got a summer concert happening on the 10th at the Conservatory.
16th, this weekend.
Oh, good. I need new glasses. And Clean and Green. So we're continuing our work on Circular Avenue cleanup, and Cecilia's coordinating. The amazing thing is that the more we clean, the more we find needs to be clean. There's a lot going on Circular Avenue.
Job security.
Yeah, so we hope you're able to join just for a couple of hours. We've got, in addition to the block party, we've got Coffee with the Board at Round Road Espresso. I didn't know that business has been here for 30 years. I talked to the gal who was operating it, much to my surprise. I think probably one of the older neighborhood businesses. We've got a garage sale that we're planning on September 27th. I don't know how many households we're up to right now for sign-ups, but you can sign up by going to our website and clicking through. I think that there's well over a dozen and a half neighbors that are going to be dragging their treasures out of their garage so they can swap them with other neighbors for their treasures. So that's happening. And then, of course, later we've got the annual holiday party. We've decided this year to turn it into a potluck because of all the delicious things that people were bringing in prior years. We just want to encourage everyone to bring their own favorite foods to share. We'll supply the drinks and live music. So we hope you're able to put that on your calendar and attend.
So November 10th is our quarterly meeting. The mayor has given an indication he'll be here. November 10th, quarterly meeting here.
Thank you all. God, I really stay to the end.
Penciled in.
It's really great to see you all. And we get some feedback on how it's like online. Have you got many?
We still got
comments,
4
John?
people that hung until the end, but there
4
were
people?
about 12 people at one point.
That's amazing.
They don't get any prize. Sorry, guys.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Was it hard to do?
No. Once I figured out the sound,
Oh, good.
I'm gonna kill it now. It's the end stream. Bye, everybody.